Let me ask you a question. How many times have you wanted to become a successful entrepreneur, author, speaker, and you had a lot of worries, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fears that were stopping you from achieving your goals and dreams? Perhaps you were afraid of success. Perhaps you're afraid of failure. And anxiety is keeping you from taking that next step. Well, now we are here with Kathleen Rafter, and she's a spiritual life coach, and she can guide you how you too can find inner peace so you can achieve higher confidence and achieve all of your goals and dreams. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for being on this show. And please tell us, what does it take to create, to find inner peace? What do we have to do?
Thank you, Lily. It's wonderful to be here. The first thing that you need to do is to know what your purpose is. So many people in the world are just doing what they think their culture or their family or their friends want them to do. But when they find out what their purpose is, and that's what I help people to do, to go through and to find their purpose so that they can know with confidence, with surety, what they were meant to ever. We're all here on earth for a certain reason. We're all given certain gifts. So when we know that, we can just go through and, I'm not saying there won't be any problems. There will be. But you can know what that purpose is. And then after that, what are you going to do with a purpose, knowing it and keeping it in your heart? You have to set an intention to go through and to bring that forward into the world. You need to have an intention. You need to have a vision. You need to have a mission for your life. You need to set goals where you can bring that purpose forward. Use those gifts that you have, that you were intended to do. Those fears and anxieties will come in too. But I go through and I help people to eliminate those limiting beliefs, those fears, those worries that come in that are holding us back. If we let them stay in the subconscious, they will just hold us back and won't allow us to go through and to bring forth what we need. And
okay, sorry. So
well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay, you continue.
And then the next thing is to get into action. Once you do that, you have to bring your, like you're bringing forward your work into the world, helping people to become, published authors and to become better speakers. You need to go through and to do that. And you need to have an action plan. You need to see the result that you want, the end vision that you want, and you have to reverse it, engineer everything so that you have all those steps that you need. And then you just go through and you find somebody that you can to model. You go through, as an example, Marie is one of the people that I use, Marie Diamond, to go through and to model her work and to go through and put it all together, get into action. And it also helps to have a coach so that when you're having problems, you can count on that coach to go through. They've already been through it, and they can show you the way to make it easier for you.
Okay. So let's say that if I'm someone who is, let's say, a relatively successful entrepreneur, and I could go to the next level, I know how to do it, and I know what steps to take, but I don't take them because of fear, anxiety, and worry of what could possibly happen because of, let's say, the past. Okay, so let's say I have a certain predetermined idea of what clients are like, or what things are, what kind of things happened in the past, and I'm afraid of that happening again. How can I find that inner peace so that I'm not held back? Because, I might know what my purpose is. I might know what my, my path is. I might, have very clear in my mind everything I desire, and you can say how to get there as well. But I'm not taking the steps because of fear, anxiety, and worry.
That held me back for many, many years. Coaches would say, just go and act. How could you act if you were scared? I felt like a deer, with my eyes in the headlight. What I have found is that meditation has been very helpful for me. And I'm a certified EFT practitioner. And going through with those two things, I've been able to move forward myself. And that's how I help my clients to go through and move forward. So just by tapping on a few points and thinking of the thing that's stressing you out, you can move forward. For instance, I had a fear of being sued. I live in the United States, and we're not supposed to talk about anything with the medical field, anything dealing with psychology. And it was said that, well, this person had been sued and that person had been sued. I was really scared. My husband had made a comment to me one time, we could lose the house. And I was really frightened. And it held me back for many, many months. And just by going through, once I learned EFT, going through and tapping on that, I don't worry about it at all. It doesn't even, come into my radar. So that is probably the number one thing that I've used with my family personally, with my clients, along with meditation, to get over this fear. And then there's always take the first step. Find the smallest thing that you can do after doing these processes and actually take a small step. And what you find is that it'll just start to snowball. You'll be able to take those steps, and then get on your pathway to what you need to do.
Okay. Do you have any techniques that people can use so they can find that inner peace? I'm just going to share very briefly what I use. For example, I use meditation music where I don't actually meditate. I just listen to kind of abundance music in the background, and it makes me a bit calmer when I do have anxiety, and I have anxiety a lot. And let me think what else I do. I dance. And let's say I go for a swim, and I go for a walk in the park. These are the sort of things that I do to calm myself down, and then everything seems to be a little bit better. Because what I find is that we all have the answers within, we just choose not to take them because you can say we are not taking the time to calm ourselves down. And I'm really curious to hear from you, what kind of techniques do you have to find that inner calm, that inner peace that any person could use?
The first thing that I do is go out in nature. I just love to take a walk. Right now, we're in the middle of late spring, early summer, but even in the winter, going out, the earth is at the healing frequency of 7.8 hertz. That is a healing frequency. Just by going out, you're going to heal yourself. You're going to settle your mind. So that's the first thing that I do. Second thing is to listen to classical music. We have an adopted son from Russia, and when we were in the orphanage, they play classical music the whole time. It settled the children down, and it helped to, keep their minds going as well. So those are just, two simple things that you could do. If somebody's worried and anxious, what I would suggest to do is to take a bath. And if you're able to do it, if you don't have any skin issues, to use lavender. Put a few drops of lavender essential oil into that bath, or use a lavender soap. And that is also very settling too. Lighting a candle, especially if it has that lavender, a relaxing type of a scent to it. And just looking at that flame can settle you down. It'll just be a very, very calming thing.
Wow, I love these techniques. And do your clients tend to use these kind of techniques, or is it a mixture of them, or is it a mixture of those plus some counseling with you? How does it work?
Yeah, it's counseling, with me. I was just with a client yesterday, and we began with a meditation. So that helps to settle down. We also went through and used EFT to help her to settle her anxiety and her worry about a family situation. And going through and doing the coaching, talking about what lots of times people need to move forward and they just don't have the strength. Sometimes they just need a kick on the rear end, to go through and do that. But I find that just speaking with people, and once Like you were talking about, we were speaking a little bit earlier about community, and just having that community and having someone that you can bounce ideas off of. I work with my clients as a partner rather than as an authority figure or as a teacher. I just want to work with them as a partner and to help them get over the things that they need to, the hurdles that they need to get over, and to do it gently so that they can move on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you find that people that have different problems tend to react differently to anxiety, for example? So let's say someone who has a business related problem maybe reacts completely differently to someone who has, I don't know, found their husband having an affair or something like that. And because of that, they have the anxiety and the fear and, the worry about what will happen, what am I going to do with the children or things like that. Do you find that people react differently? And if so, do you give them like a customized program, or is it mainly like the same type of things that tend to work for everyone?
No, I will go through and custom make the program for everyone. Everyone is different and everyone has different situations going on. I currently have a client who is in New York. She's got 2 little children, and that is different from the client I was with yesterday who's married and she's got an adult child. And it just business people will have a different situation that they need to deal with. But given that, just going through and doing the meditation and practicing EFT will calm them down no matter what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. I find that, for example, music tends to help me a lot to settle. So, like listening to abundance music, or like you said, listening to classical music. I think listening to classical music is a bit like playing chess, like you don't really fancy listening to it until you actually listen to it, like it's it's the same with playing chess for me. It's like I don't fancy doing it until I am actually playing, and once I play it, it's like it feels good. But you kind of have to get yourself into this, mindset of, okay, I have to do this and then I will feel better. Or how do you what do you propose for people that, let's say, have anxiety, but they find it really hard to take any step to settle it? So maybe what do you suggest for those people that are almost like reluctant to do anything to make that disappear?
You have to be willing to take a step. If somebody is not willing to do something, just talking with somebody. I have a friend from the Middle East, and she says, you Americans just pay so much money for psychologists. We just talk to our family. So at least to talk to somebody, to talk to a friend. And lots of times they can give you the ideas to go through and suggest someone to go to or something to do. Sometimes just taking a nap, if somebody's feeling very anxious, the body knows what to do. And just by going through and resting, your subconscious will take over and give you the answers. Going out and taking a walk is just a wonderful thing. So many things are solved just by going out, getting some exercise, making a cup of tea, just with going through and brewing that, and you've got the calming things and you're sitting there and the steam is coming up. It's just very calming, just very, very simple things you can do and calm yourself down.
And do you find that to prevent kind of getting into anxiety and worry and fear, or to kind of prevent a relapse of that happening, do you find that is it better to create a routine that prevents anxiety and worry and fears? So for example, like, do you recommend doing anything in the morning or in the afternoon or at night? Or do you recommend doing anything, for example, I don't know, like a half an hour program in the mornings, or like saying affirmations? Or is there anything in particular that you recommend people do to kind of get into a peak state and be, you can say, take better decisions? Because I think as a business owner or entrepreneur or author or speaker, what happens is, or it doesn't matter what you do, but I think that when you feel like you're in worry and anxiety and fear, you take really bad decisions. It's like you're depressed, or you're not going to take that step that to take. And because of that, what's going to happen is that you're not going to move forward as much as you would like to. And I think that maybe if you have a certain routine that you recommend, is it possible that we will take better decisions?
I think the most important thing, I do have a routine, and I think the most important part of that routine that I'm finding is to go back to successes that you've had. If you're feeling very anxious about something, go back and think of successes that you had. I mean, even go back to childhood. I just made a list of things that I have done. And, I went back to my Girl Scout troop, my elementary school, and things that I did, having a degree and things that people have said to me about business, going through, if somebody looks at what they've done, having a, child, getting married, whatever those things may be, go through and look at that first. But when the first thing I do when I get up is to be grateful. I find that, in fact, I'm doing a Qigong program right now, and the opposite of fear is gratitude. So if somebody wakes up with fear, just to feel grateful for where you live, for your family, for your good health, for whatever it is, just start the day with that gratitude. And then I go through and I've got a list of the goals that I have. I go through and I write those down, and I'm listening to classical music. I've also listened to solfeggio. I don't know if you're familiar with the solfeggio tunes that I learned from Marie Diamond, but say if somebody is afraid, I would listen to the Ram tone. And just by going through and you hear somebody chanting Ram, and you can feel that in your solar plexus when you do that, that will take away any of the fear, any of the anxiety that I've had. And then I'm writing down, I've got a vision for how I want my life to be, and I write that out every morning. I write that out, what I want, what I want to have. And, I go through and I do some tapping. I was a little bit anxious this morning, so I did some tapping. And then I meditate. I always go through and meditate with the meditations that I've learned from Marie Diamond. And doing that, I used to have problems sleeping at night. Meditating before going to sleep, I have no problem sleeping whatsoever. It takes away that if any anxiety that I have, and I just sleep through like a baby until the next morning when I'm ready to wake up.
Perfect. And what about dealing with triggers? So for example, let's say that your anxiety is caused by, let's say, someone shouting, because when you were a child, you had, heard a lot of shouting. Or maybe your anxiety is caused because, your business partner, doesn't pay or whatever. Or maybe your anxiety is caused because maybe you see your husband having an affair, and then every time you hear or you see a sign of that happening, it's like it's an immediate trigger. So how can we make sure that we prevent these triggers, or how do you make sure that once these triggers appear, that we're not kind of going straight into anxiety, worry, fear, and instead of that, when we notice that happening, we're like reversing, and we're stepping again into our power, and we feel great, and we move towards our goals rather than backtrack from them. How do we do that?
The easiest way to go through and to combat that immediate anxious feeling is to breathe. You take a deep breath in through your nose, and you breathe out through your mouth, like as if you were breathing out through a straw. As deep as you can, breathe in. In fact, it's almost as if you had a balloon in your diaphragm, in your belly. Breathe in, let that balloon fill out, and then let it back in as you're breathing out, as if you're breathing out through a straw. If you do that for 6 times, I think anybody can do that no matter what the situation. If it were in business, if they're in a discussion with a family member, they can go through and do that. And then it would be a matter of, when that trigger comes, you need to reframe it. So if the trigger comes in, I was having challenges with somebody. And what I found is that when that thought came in, I went through and I said that I just said, I got this from Marie, to delete. A lot of people in the English speaking world will say cancel, delete, something like that. And then I tell myself I'm going to stay in my own lane, or I'm going to stay in my own channel. And then I send that person love. So say if it were someone who had an argument with a coworker, or they found out that their husband was cheating on them or whatever, to just reframe that, take a few deep breaths, realize that you're judging, or realize that awareness is going to help you to settle down with what's going on. But tell yourself that you're going to delete that thought, because when we have that thought, we're actually sending that energy out. So you have that thought, cancel, take a deep breath, I'm staying in my own lane, and then send love to them, or send gratitude to them, or acceptance, whatever you can. Maybe you can't send that gratitude, but you can at least send acceptance to them.
That's very interesting as a technique. I haven't tried that yet. I also find prayer helps. Do you find praying helps as well?
It does. And I do that as part of meditation. What I've learned from Marie is to plug in to everyone who's praying or meditating at the same time. She had suggested this at the outbreak of the war in the Ukraine. And I found that to be a very powerful thing, where as soon as I start, this prayer process, I just say, I'm hooking into whoever's praying or meditating at the same time, so that we can go through and, multiply our efforts with that. So
Wow, that's great.
Very, very effective. Yes.
Very interesting, right? I think this topic of overcoming worry, anxiety, and finding inner peace is a really massive topic, and I don't think it really can be covered in a short interview. So how can people get to know you better? How can people get some solutions for their worries, problems, anxieties, fears?
They can contact me at Kathy@KathleenRafter.com is my website. And KathleenRafter.com is my website. They can email me at Kathy@KathleenRafter.com. I have a strong presence on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. So on Instagram, it's at Rafter Kathleen. Facebook, it's Kathleen Rafter. And I'd be more than happy to meet with someone. I love to meet with people for a free discovery session, and I can help them to discover their purpose. Since most 95% of the people in the world don't know, I can help them to discover their purpose, and then help them to get to start moving along, or their, to get on the pathway so that they can bring their purpose and their gifts into the world.
Thank you so much, Kathleen.
Thank you, Lily.